Welcome back to Pathroma Therapy. We are in summer and spring-summer season, episode 5, and our topic today is paradise. You can see on our cover shot a bright, hot Texas sky with some heat clouds. So quite often in various cultures and poems and literature, paradise has been depicted as a place in the sky. What do you think about that?
I've just opened the web page in Wikipedia. I know you might be against what's written in it, but I tried Britannica and it asked me for a subscription, which I cannot do because Visa isn't working in Russia any longer. But Wikipedia is fine. I think there could be a mistake, but not in this case. And there is a picture by Jan Bruegel. I'll probably put this up when we'll be editing this video.
And I know. I love it. I love that.
Me too.
I love it.
Me too.
I know it.
I've never seen it before, but I like it very much with all the animals and the forest and stuff. That's very close to my idea of paradise. Don't you agree?
Yes. It's the rich kingdom of God where all the creatures live in peace and harmony. Yeah, it's a great one. I like it.
But I
really like it a lot.
The only thing that confuses me, there are no people in it.
Well, somehow man or the human being has a way of sort of messing things up. There is a very beautiful poem by Gerard Manley Hopkins, and it is called God's Grandeur. And Hopkins lived 1844 to 1889, and he says the world is charged with the grandeur of God. It will flame out like shining from shook foil. And then he talks about how man has trod down nature, because this is during the Industrial Revolution, and that in spite of the fact that humans have messed up the natural world, nature is never spent. The Holy Ghost on bright wings broods over the world. So Hopkins has a poetic vision of nature as a beautiful place hovered over by God. And I think the idea of the peaceable kingdom, that's a Quaker idea that the lion and the lamb will lay down together, that it's a place of harmony and peace and bliss.
Hey, I've just scrolled down the same page where I told you that there is a picture of paintings by Jan Bruegel. I told you I'm disappointed that there are no people in it. And I just scrolled it down and there is another one by Nicolas Poussin. I'm not sure if I'm killing this name or not, maybe Italian, but it's a Latin transcription. Nicola Puccini, probably. Four seasons of paradise, and it's on the contrary. There is Adam and Eve probably in it, but no animals, no at all, just two people, and there's God up above in the sky. And that
okay,
makes,
well, yeah.
Can you find it?
Don't keep going. Let's just pause a little bit on that. Like we got a lot going on here. Yeah, I think the story of creation is that there was this original man and woman, archetypal man and woman, living in a perfect paradise, a perfect Garden of Eden. And the only thing that they were supposed to do is, just try to be happy. But our inquisitive, sinful nature leads us to things we're not supposed to do. So that's why the tree of knowledge was there. And we're not supposed to, do forbidden things. So just as Adam had Eve supposedly tempting him in Dante's Paradiso, we have Dante being led by Beatrice. So it's kind of a parallel to the Garden of Eden. And in Dante's Paradiso, Beatrice leads Dante up through the various levels of paradise. And at the highest level is the beatific vision of God. Wow, this is such deep stuff for Petroma therapy. We hope that our listeners are familiar with some of these things we're talking about, and that maybe you've thought a little bit about paradise. Certainly in these past few years, we've all been struggling, and in Petroma therapy, we just try to keep it light and keep it deep because, don't want to get too crazy, but yeah, questions about, am I good? Will I be rewarded in the next life? What's going to be in heaven? Will there be animals? Can I eat? Can I bring my car? Will my kids be there? A lot of people wonder about what it's going to be like. What is your personal, what are some of your questions about paradise?
I'm very much confused about the idea because I think the paradise the idea of paradise would be close to what I had 20, 30, 40 years back when I was a child, and I was standing in the bank of a river, surrounded by the forest trees. I was a happy child. I had a grandfather with me. We were fishing fish and catching fish. How do you call that when you fishing fish in the river? Is that fishing fish confuses me? It's probably not the way to go. But when you have this line and you threw it into the river and you're trying to catch the fish, how do you call that?
Well, if it's just a stick with a string, that's just fishing. But if you're casting, if you have a thing with a metal spinner on it, you're casting.
No, we were just fishing. But can I say we were fishing the fish? Because it kind of doesn't make any sense.
No, just say we were fishing.
Yeah, we were fishing. Thank you. So my idea of paradise, of being somewhere 10 years old, maybe 7 or 8. But what confuses me is there are not my children in it, even though I was happy, but that's not right. It just doesn't work that way, because I'm not ready to sacrifice the existence and happiness of my children in favor of my own preferences. And you said you don't know what paradise is, if there are children and parents or everyone close to your heart. And the same I ask myself the very same question: what would be the idea of paradise? And why I think that would be me of being the boy of 10 years old.
Yes, yes. Well, there's a literary term, a philosophy term. We have the word the fall from grace. Adam and Eve have sinned, and they're cast from the garden, and they must go into the world. So there's the theme of the journey. So this phrase, pre-lapsarian bliss, means before the fall of man, we live in a state of bliss. So you as a little boy on the riverbank fishing with your grandfather, you're in a state of innocence. You haven't yet reached adolescence, which is very tumultuous, or adulthood, which has its own problems, or the world of work and finance and driving cars and making mistakes and doing the things we do as we live in the world. But I think that this vision that you have is very lovely, and I think that it's very charming, and I can hear in your voice that it's real. I mean that is a lovely vision of paradise.
Can I ask you about your vision? Would that be too personal to ask, or not?
Well, we're in therapy. In therapy.
Well, by the way, while we're on it, you used the word therapy a few times this afternoon. I thought when we created this channel, I didn't pay much attention to the therapy part. But now I'm kind of thinking that maybe there is deeper sense in how we named our channel, because therapy, I think in the U.S. especially, it's something which constitutes a large part of humans' life or people's lives. Not as much in Russia, but I don't know, there are cultural differences. So I'm not advocating, I'm not against it. I'm just thinking that therapy, I should perform a therapy. It probably should somehow help us to understand ourselves,
Yes, well,
right?
therapy
To fix
is
the
something
issues.
that people join into generally for a specific amount of time. So, classical, well, there's psychotherapy like with Freud, and there's Jung, and all kinds of people. But just in general, in the West or in the United States, therapy is a 1 hour. It's called the 55-minute hour, because the last 5 minutes you're standing up and paying the bill and walking out the door. So it's a set amount of time where you kind of bare your soul to another human and share some of your problems. And there's an amount of trust that this person will keep some confidences. So I kind of think that's what we're doing. We've taken on some serious topics,
Yeah, and
and also we've taken on some lightweight topics like ice cream and bridges. But you were asking me what was my idea of paradise.
Sorry for interruption.
No. We're discussing, and that's fine. We're kind of like weaving around. I have two things that I want to say. So one is that prepositions are words like for, by, a long while. And I came across the preposition by, and it became very apparent to me that we are punished if our actions have consequence. That we're not punished by God. We are punished by our own sins. We are punished by our own free will choices. So it's not God, this is just my idea, it is not God that sends me to heaven or hell or purgatorio, but I send myself there because of my own free will choices. So, maybe I was a teenager and I stole a record in a record store, or maybe I was 8 years old and stole some candy from a store, or maybe I was an adult and had some sinful ways about me, but I chose them. So I am fond of the idea that paradise is something that I can choose with my daily actions, or hell, or purgatory. So then the second idea that I love about this topic is that in various churches, synagogues, mosques, these are the houses of worship of various different types of people around the world. And quite often there's the universal concept of charity, that, we all deserve to eat, we all deserve to have some food and clothes. So, we have these charity programs. And some people just write a check to a charity. Some people do clothing drives. Some people feed the homeless. So there's all these goodwill activities. So I don't know, this is maybe like 10 or 12 years ago, I got this idea. I was talking with somebody it's called spiritual direction, but what it is, it's like therapy. You go and sit for about an hour and talk to somebody about deep topics. And I was talking with this friend of mine back in Houston, and we kind of came across this idea on our own, that the only thing in paradise will be the things you've given away of your own free will. So, for example, I have given away a car. I gave away a Delta 88 Oldsmobile. I've given away clothes. I've given away drinks. I have given away, I don't mean to self-aggrandize, but when I'm just thinking about what things have I given to charity, like I'm not too fond of just putting a check in the collection plate to air condition a beautiful huge church. I'm more into like direct service. So I kind of like the idea of all the stuff that's going to be up there in heaven. My Delta 88 will be there, and a bunch of great food and some cold drinks and like hot dogs and lasagna and all kinds of stuff. So what do you think is going to be up in heaven? Is it up for you? Is heaven up for you?
Hard to say. It's not up to me to decide. But you've mentioned the free will. I immediately thought of Dostoevsky. He has this story called Notes from Underground. I guess the idea is that the free will, which we exercise is mostly about destroying ourselves. We decide um, to smoke, for instance, or to drink to excess, or to do other stuff which is not good for our health and stuff. And somehow I should probably read it again, but I liked the main preposition of that, not the preposition, the main assumption of the idea. Yeah.
I think that somebody somewhere wrote that there's two drives. One is Thanatos and one is Eros. So Thanatos is the drive to death. All the things that feel so good are not good for us, like lust and cigarettes and gluttony and all drink Jack Daniels. I mean, drinking to excess. All the excesses that we crave are that drive to death, or Thanatos. The energy of Thanatos drives that. And then there's other different types of energy, but I think that's kind of what you're zoning in on. That I've never smoked, but like a lot of people, they love to smoke. Like that's like sort of like the meaning of life, just getting up and having their coffee and staring out into space and just smoking their cigarette and drinking their coffee. They're like in paradise for a few minutes.
Have you ever done any of the things that you listed 5 minutes ago? Stole a biscuit or candy? Honestly, can you share that with me?
Stealing?
Yeah, in 10 years old. When you were 10 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am a very clever sinner.
I'm absolutely sure of it.
No. Okay,
no? You didn't steal anything when you were a little girl?
I want to tell about when I was in college. So, for example, in general, this is kind of related to candy, but zoom it forward to college days. For example, I love art and I love books. I crave them. I could not have too many books. I love books. I love to touch them. I love to hold them. I love to read them. I love to be surrounded by them. So I was in college and I did not have a lot of money, and I had been all over Europe because I lived in Germany, and I'd been to France, and I'd seen all these famous paintings for real. I'd seen them with my own eyes. Now I was back in Texas. Quel dommage. I'm back in Texas, and I'm going to school, and I go into this college bookstore, and there are these beautiful books, like books about the Uffizi and the Louvre and the Met and all the books about Picasso and Matisse, and I just covet, or I just desire to have one of these books. But I'm a college student, just barely paying for my tuition and on work study, and I figure, well, how am I going to get one of these books? And so the logical leap is I will steal one, right?
Well,
so
yeah.
Part of my collection of art books I've had for years. If you take your hand and kind of splay it out, I have 4 books, maybe 3 or 4, about the size of your hand. I stole them on separate occasions. One is about Van Gogh, one Gauguin, one Picasso, and then I forget the other one, but that's how my art library started. I knew that to steal was wrong, but it was so easy.
Isn't it strange how we do things we're not supposed to do, although we know they're wrong, and we still do them, even though generally we're a good person, but still we do the bad things. And we cannot do anything about that. We just do them.
Well, that is part of the mystery of being a human. We have free will. Like, right, the desire to have those art books. They like right now I have beautiful, really big art books that I actually paid money for. But back then I was 17, 18. I don't know how old are you in college, but I could get one of those books. I was wearing a coat. I could slip it into my pocket. This was before a lot of surveillance like they have now. A lot of surveillance in stores. But or I don't know. I am such a bad person. I have recently stolen some candy. Here I am, an adult woman stealing candy. I, it's very hot in Texas. I did grocery shopping. I have my purse in the basket, and I've got these 2 candy bars that I love, Hershey's with almonds, and I don't want them to get broken in all the other stuff. So I just set them at the edge of my purse, and then I'm checking out, making small talk with the cashier, and then I don't put the 2 candies onto the, thing to be paid for. I just walk out with the, 2 candy bars.
Just let me know if you'd like to take that part out of our conversation later when I be able to edit the recordings.
When I'm stealing?
Yeah, about
No,
that
okay.
you've been grown-up women stealing candies. If you're okay, I'm fine. I think that. Thanks for sharing, by the way, because it's honesty. I read it somewhere that the honesty. Well, the mother. I guess it was a story. The mother tells her daughter, "Do not lie," because honesty is the only shield that God gave us against the devil.
Wait a minute. Say that again. You have to say that again slowly. Say that again.
Okay. The mother told
Honesty
her daughter.
is...
The mother told her daughter, "Do not ever lie to other people, because the honesty is the only shield that God gave us to defend, to protect against evil, against
the devil.
The devil. Yeah.
Wow.
Every time you lie, you sort of drop down that shield and expose yourself. But when you tell the truth, the shield works and the protection is in place. And somehow I remember that, and I'm trying not to lie. It's not always easy, but it's funny that I'm been like almost 50 years old. I'm just thinking of things like "do not lie," although I've been told this when I was like 5 years old child. I'm still fighting it, and yeah, I know it's wrong, but sometimes I still do it.
Well, I have a friend here in Dallas who he makes a lot of jokes about my habitual lying because I love to tell stories, and I don't call it a lie. I call it an embellished truth. So maybe I'll be telling a story like people will be hanging around having some drinks or standing at the swimming pool, or just people are visiting at a bar. And I love to talk. I love to tell stories. And then this friend of mine, he'll like roll his eyes and he'll say, he'll tell me that I'm like such a fabulous liar.
Well, define lie, because you're going to lawyer up on me, and lawyers love these things, like disclaimers all over the place. And yeah, that's also confuses me when you have to go into each detail of each aspect of the truth or lie, or maybe the truth isn't the whole truth, and does that make it a lie?
Right.
I don't know.
Well, back to our topic of paradise, and if we think about these different levels, like right now we're parsing what's a lie, what are the qualifications for a lie, and what levels of lying, and like that's part of our analytical mind. And many different stories and books and even art shows they will show paradise with these different levels. And in the Paradiso by Dante, light as a metaphor for God permeates the whole of paradise. All of paradise is permeated by the presence of God. But depending on how you were in the world, more or less light shines upon you. So in paradise, let's suppose I make it to paradise. I don't really know. I don't know. But suppose I make it to paradise. I have lied. I have sinned. I have done a lot of stuff. So maybe I make it to paradise, but maybe I'm going to be in a little darker area of paradise. But at least I'm there, right? And then you might be there too, and you might be in a little bit brighter area. So the presence of God as a metaphor, light, permeates all of paradise, but it's darker or lighter depending on our free will choices that led us to sin.
Why do you separate? You segregate paradise by areas. I'm not sure that's the correct approach, because paradise is paradise. You cannot. It's like you're pregnant, either pregnant or you're not. You cannot be.
Okay, wait a minute. Escúchame. You have never been pregnant. There are different levels of pregnancy. Like there's like first trimester, second trimester, and third trimester. the third trimester is just get this thing out. Okay, so I know what you mean. Like, you're either pregnant or not. But what I'm saying is that in Dante's Paradiso, there's levels of paradise, and some people show it as like a gradation. Like there's different levels.
I never read it. I never read Dante's Paradise. I heard a lot about 7 levels of hell, or how many was there? I don't remember.
A bunch
of levels, right? But I should probably read it. I don't know why I didn't until now. But why do you know anyone who's more aware of the distinctions, of the nuances of heaven and hell? Like you have any preacher of your own who you could ask about how to, if you deserve to be in paradise or in hell, if you still have a chance for redemption, and because I don't. I wish I'd have someone in the church who I could discuss these subjects with, but I don't.
Well, and there was a very wise fellow here in Dallas that we have mentioned before. He's no longer assigned to this parish here in Dallas, Holy Trinity. Now he's off in Hollywood. He's he's been relocated to Hollywood. Talk about paradise. You've left Dallas and now you're in Hollywood. And he and I used to talk about these topics, but he's not in Dallas anymore. But it's interesting to me that Dante, who wrote the Divine Comedy, he referenced St. Thomas Aquinas, and Aquinas made his argument for the existence of God based on the idea that God is the unmoved mover that sets the world into motion. And generally, light is a metaphor, and also the Word. Like in St. John's Gospel, it's in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was, it talks about the Word of God being spoken on the world. So, I don't know, like preachers are I mean, they have churches in Russia, don't they? Can't wander in and say, hi, let's talk.
Hey, you mentioned light, and I thought of the star and the morning star, because the light gets born in the morning. And I also, morning star, you know what it is, right? Lucifer in Latin. And
no, wait a minute, no, I don't. Go slower.
You don't know?
What? Say it again.
No, Lucifer translates as a morning star. Did you know that? I'm sure you did.
No.
No, you didn't. Because morning star is a direct translation from the word Lucifer. Lucifer is in Latin. And
luce, light, luce, yeah.
Yeah, and you mentioned light, and I immediately somehow jumped to the subject of Lucifer. It always surprised me. He was a favorite angel, I guess. And then he was cast out and became the devil.
Well, he didn't cast out, he cast him. He did certain things. He tried to set himself up above God, and God said, okay, I'm going to go ahead and give you an opportunity. You go into the world, and I'm going to give you free reign. That's how good God is. He allowed Lucifer, or the spirit of evil, to reign in the world and to tempt people. And he said, those souls who belong to me they will be tempted by you, but they will remain faithful. And so Lucifer was a favorite angel or non-corporal being. And when he left heaven, the presence of God, he wanted to be more powerful than God and to set himself up, because his main sin is pride. I think pride is like the number one sin that all the sins can be classified under. So anyhow, Lucifer is in the world tempting people because God allowed him to, and then each person can decide what they want to do. Like, do you want to steal a candy? Do you want to cheat on your income tax? Do you want to go out with this girl even though you're already married? Like all these choices we make. The presence of evil or temptation is everywhere. It's all over the place. It's in stores, it's online, it's everywhere.
Why is it that pride is always number one sin?
Well, if you think about the 10 Commandments, okay, like commandment, like one of the commandments is honor your mother and father. Okay, if you break that commandment and you do put yourself first, that means you're choosing pride over honoring your parents, right? Or if you commit adultery, that means you're putting your personal pleasure above your commitment to marriage. So that's pride. Like I see this is just me, that the number one sin that it all boils down to is pride. Thinking that we know it all, we want it all, we can have it all. And we kind of can. Like, think of this modern world that we live in with all the things you can order online, all the things that you can, all the loopholes you can jump through. Like, we're living in like a moral wilderness.
Do you think that 100 years ago, or 200 years ago, 300 years ago, people lived differently? That was that easier for them than it is for us now?
It was different. For example, in my grandmother's generation, she never drove a car. They had a car, she had a house, but my grandfather was a gentleman, so he would drive her to get her hair fixed, and he would drive her to dinner, and he would drive her to church. And so she never drove a car, she never put gas in a car, and he was a gentleman. You know, he also had some other lady friends. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I mean, temptations are always there. I mean, if we think of the times we live in now, the children that we have, they can drive cars, they can pump gas, they can do all these different things. It's different, but all the stuff we deal with is pretty much the same: fidelity, loyalty, honesty, integrity.
I think we have problem. The root of our problems is that humans, we being humans, we live in two worlds: physical and spiritual. I guess that's the only human quality which in the whole physical world. I mean, and that causes all the suffering, not the desire, as Buddhists say. Because if you don't desire, you still desire not to desire. Anyway, that's very, very complicated, and maybe it's again not up to me to judge. But I think the root of all our problems is in the idea we don't understand the idea how we are dual. How do you call that?
Mind-body dualism. That's
mind-body dualism.
Yeah,
probably. Yeah,
dualism.
that hits close to my understanding of things. That we suffer, we cannot do anything about it because we're imprisoned in this physical body, and at the same time, we are not physical beings, we are spiritual beings. And when they say, do you think there is a soul in man, I always think that's not the right question. You have to ask, do you think there is a body and does your soul have a body? But we never ask that.
Let me do this. Spring summer season episode 5 is Paradise, and then we have spring summer episode 6, which is going to be self-consciousness, self-awareness, and I think we're going to talk about more of this there, about what do we do with our bodies, what do we do with our awareness, our they call it Dasein, like Dasein, like awareness of being. This is like another whole thing we're launching into, but like I hear you. I want to go there. Should we try to wrap this episode up and then we do episode 6, self-consciousness, self-awareness, mind-body dualism?
Yeah, absolutely. We shall.
So, good luck with another day on your journey to paradise, and we will see you around the bend.
And stay safe. Goodbye.